And a pleasant good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Bishop Hartley High School on the east side of Columbus. We are here for Week 8 of Football Facebook Live. I'm Dave Purpura, along with Jarrod, Ulrey, and our guest to begin the show this week. He was on with us last year as well. I'm glad to talk to you again, Coach Brad Burchfield of the Hartley Hawks. Good to see you again, Coach.
Thanks, Dave. Jarrod, we appreciate you coming out here, Bishop Hartley.
It's our pleasure. 5-2 overall. You're 1-0 in the league. You got a big one against DeSales, who has exactly the same record tomorrow night. What's been going so well, especially here recently, to get a couple big wins in a row, and really seems like picking up a head of steam coming into this game tomorrow?
We're getting better. There's no question. I can see it out here on the practice field once we get rare and go, and I can see it in games. We're getting better. We take care of the ball. We're kind of figuring out where our personnel can go best. I mean, we're similar season to what we always have. That doesn't mean we're going to end it like we always do. There's certainly no guarantees that, but it's similar. Our MO early in the season is kind of figure out what we're good at, figure out who fits where. I mean, we still do a significant amount of moving around through mid-season, and we still are. And we think we're settled, but you're always going to try to look for who fits best and where they fit best. And we're still doing that, but we want to be obviously going at this time of year more than anything else.
Okay. And obviously, you guys won the back-to-back state titles, had a real good run last year. What's kind of your thoughts about the state of this program and why you've been able to continue to sustain the type of success you've had?
Well, I mean, the last 10 years, and this has been the best program in the history of Central Ohio. I mean, it's undisputable, the amount of state championships and the postseason success and the overall record. It's been pretty amazing. It's been a lot of fun. I'm going to say the same thing that Davidson and Pick Central and these teams that are in the same category as us would say, and that's the culture of the program, the culture of the kids. The kids are very hardworking. They buy into what we're doing. There's no, and it really is a reflection of the culture of the school. When we lose to Clinton Massey because the coach called a fake punt that was stupid, the principal doesn't come down to my office and say, wag his finger and say, "What do you think?" And he said, "All right, let's go. What do we? We're going to be back better than ever. We're going to learn." It is an ingrained culture within the school. And it sounds sappy and it sounds silly, but it really is true. And the kids feed off that. There's no kids that hang their head when we firmly believe and we live it that disappointment has to happen for us to be the very best we can be. Or you can't figure out how good you can be or what you can do. If you never get punched in the face, you don't know how to block it.
Well, and that jumps out to me, the way you guys schedule. I mean, you don't shy away from anybody. Like Toledo Central Catholic you've opened with here recently.
Sure.
And a lot of these other powerful schools, I imagine that kind of feeds into the philosophy that you're talking about, to find out who you are so you start to hit your stride.
Yeah. I mean, you don't know what kind of team you have when you play. No disrespect, but some of the teams that I'm thinking of, that they know I'm thinking of, right? We don't find out what we have. Yeah. Only thing we can be is disappointed. Man, they played close with us for a while. They're putting up half a banner for a moral victory. That doesn't work. I mean, you have to go up to Toledo and see and say, wow, they just whooped us. Where do we got to? Where are we going from here? Mm-hmm. You got to go to Clinton Massey and lose a tight one and say, what? There were 4 things we should have done different, not could have done different, should have done different, and next time we're going to have to do different. And so you don't get those opportunities with somebody you're a lot better than. Now, the flip side of that is you play so many tough teams, you got to beat some of them, and health is an issue for everybody. I mean, the amount of injuries that have been sustained I've seen this year have been really frightening, and so that's an issue.
Okay. Hartley at DeSales. Thoughts, keys to the matchup for you guys?
It's I mean, the truth is the cliche. You've got to outblock them and out-tackle them. There's no tricks. I don't have a newfangled fake that we're going to run and this kind of stuff. You've got to outblock them. You've got to out-tackle them. They have one guy at this point for them that controls the game, and he's a really good player, number 9, and we've got to we can't let him control the game. If he controls the game on both sides, I mean, he's a scoring machine. Covington Catholic, he scored on defense, and he's been accounted for all their touchdowns, I think, last few weeks too. So we have to limit how much he can control the game. He's a big, strong, physical kid and plays really hard, and we've got to do better than he does, honestly.
All right, Coach. Well, hey, best of luck tomorrow night. Always good seeing you.
Absolutely. We appreciate what you guys do and coming out, and go Hawks.
Thank you, Brad. We'll talk to Coach Brad Burchfield. Again, we mentioned he was a guest of ours last year, a guest of ours this year as well. Of course, the young man he was referring to.
Right, he's talking about Joey Velasquez.
Yes, one-time Ohio State baseball recruit. Now he's going to be headed to Michigan to play both football and baseball as well. And he kind of fed into that. He has moved into the quarterback position as well because Reno Godfrey got hurt, and so they're plugging Joey in now.
Yeah, and yeah, Joey he's an exceptional athlete, and I think Coach Wiggins thought, hey, as he said to me this week, he's like, no, all of our chips are pushed to the center of the table. He's like, we've got to put our best players in the best positions they can to make a difference in this game. And I mean, Velasquez is inexperienced from a passing perspective, but he did make a couple pretty good passes the other night, from what I understand. And he's gonna have the ball a lot, and he can run really well. And their offensive line is continued to get better as the season's gone on.
And covering him on the baseball side of his career the past couple of years, it seems like every time I go out to the sales, I see him in the weight room.
Oh, yeah.
And it obviously has paid off. I mean, like you said, he's a very physical runner and a heck of a linebacker, too. Tough to take down.
Well, they've really needed him at linebacker this year, too, because they had a great group of linebackers last year. That was kind of the strength of their defense, and they lost, like Ty Van Foss and some of those guys. Mm-hmm. As far as one thing I wanted to point out about this matchup that seems interesting to me is that DeSales is kind of in the exact same position that they were in last year at this time. I believe they were 5-2 heading into Week 8 against Hartley, and they lost a 23-21 game. And then they needed to somehow beat Cincinnati Winton Woods, which was a really, really difficult situation to be in Week 9, and they didn't beat them. And then they end up just coming up really just a little bit short to make the playoffs. Now, they've got the schedule is a little bit different this year. They've beaten a couple of Division I teams, and maybe if Lancaster can keep winning like they've been winning, that's going to help the sales.
Yeah.
And they beat this team from Indiana, which is, I believe, they're only like 2-6, but
it's Division I points, though.
It's Division I points, so if they can get a couple of wins, and I think Watterson is going to. They've got another win or two possibly left on their schedule, so they're going to be a little bit better. So maybe if they don't win, maybe the points will still work out for them. But a win by DeSales this week is very, very important to their playoff hopes. Hartley. It would really help Hartley, too. I mean, I think Hartley probably can lock up a home game if they can win this game. And if they win, I mean, I think it's going to... I mean, it doesn't say for sure that it's going to put him in on Joe Itel, but, I mean, it seems pretty likely that it's going to get him in. And then they've got a game in Week 9 against North Camp Hoover, which is also going to get them a lot of points if they can win that game. So.
And they're both in Region 11, Division 3.
Yeah.
Hartley is 4th, DeSales is 7th, as you mentioned, I mean, which just magnifies how important this is. And that's a tightly packed region as well, so there can be some movement. Granville, Eastmore, I think, is in there as well. I want to say Thornville, Sheridan might be in that region as well. I mean, so there are a lot of movement that could happen.
We've got a lot of great games to talk about.
We do, and another one of them is a battle of two state-ranked teams. Now, Davidson is just outside the top 10. They're at 12th, and they go to number 4 Dublin Coffman tomorrow night. I mean, this game, even going back to when I was in high school in the 90s, when it was just Hilliard and just Dublin, it was always important in those days, and it's obviously extremely important now. What I think Scott Hennon is the one who wrote the preview, and he said that these two teams have been in on the OCC title,
like
halfway or outright, for 14 years.
14 years. Okay.
2004. Yeah. I mean, that tells you just the pedigree. I saw Davidson beat UA last week. Dublin Coffman had a scare against Marysville a couple of weeks ago, and then pulled away from Central Crossing last week. This is a gigantic game in many respects.
I know one thing Coach White said was, he said Ethan Brown, the quarterback for Coffman, he calls him pretty dynamic. Mm-hmm. Now, I think Coffman is maybe doing it a little bit different than in some of their past years where they were throwing for 320 yards a game or something. I mean, they've got a little bit more of a balance, and they're playing great defense. And that's put them in position to where they're number 1 in our Super 7 now.
That's right.
It's 7-0, and Davidson's only loss is a 3-point loss to Pickerington Central in overtime.
Yeah.
So.
And you mentioned passing. I know we've mentioned this about Davidson before. They have thrown the ball a little more this year. Not that they throw it a ton.
Right.
But if they get behind, it's not like, oh, boy, we can't grind out drives like we used to. They're able to throw and put a passing attack together, so we'll see what happens. Christian Sweet had a big game last week for Davidson against UA. Had a running touchdown, returned a kickoff for returned a punt, 51 yards for a touchdown, and really helped them pull away. Both these teams are 2-0 in the league. Coffman is 7-0, and Davidson is 6-1. The Battle of Pickerington will not be in Pickerington at all. In fact, it will be in Gahanna tomorrow night because the field at Central is unplayable. Pickerington Central is 6-1. Pickerington North is 5-2. Still, I mean, even though it's going to be in Gahanna, it's still a gigantic game. It always is between these two, even though Central's 11-3 all time in the series. You, of course, cover both of these teams. Once again, yeah, I mean, what exactly do we expect between these two rivals?
Well, I think I see this as kind of a chess match on who is going to defend the other team's quarterback and the system's a little bit better than the other. Because I know North is going to be concerned with, hey, we can't let Dimitri Crenshaw break through for a lot of rushing yards if he's unable to pass. And then on the flip side, Central has to figure out ways to control this passing game of Pickerington North by, maybe controlling the clock, controlling field position, things like that, and also making sure that that the plays don't last too long. I know that was something that Coach Jarrod told me. He's like, we have to get used to, like, if the play is lasting 10 seconds while North is on offense, there's a very good chance that somebody like Chris Scott or Jalen Baylor is going to get open.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think coverage of defensive backs is going to be really big in this game.
That was the first thing that jumped out to me when I saw your preview, probably because it was at the very top of your preview. Jay Jarrod talked about shortening the game, and not in the respect of having a 12-minute drive, but yeah, just shortening the time that North has available to do anything. Central coming off that loss to Lancaster, and we've talked about Lancaster's given them troubles over the years, and it reared its head the other night, it seemed like. Does that make this game even bigger for Central than it would be otherwise, or do you just kind of shake that off? I mean, league title hopes obviously are important, but they're not the ultimate goal for Central anymore.
Well, they've won 12 share of at least 12 titles in a row.
Yes.
So I think they're going to be pretty focused, and it's probably not a great time for Pickerington North to be actually playing Pickerington Central in that aspect. They're gonna probably run into a Central team that's a little bit more focused. Not to say that North can't win this game, but it's gonna be a challenge for them. As far as the game being moved to Gahanna, as we mentioned, Central's field has been having a lot of problems.
Yeah.
When I was there a couple weeks ago, I mean, it was a soggy mess when they played Gahanna, and there were some injuries and stuff. So I don't know what the future of that's going to look like. I think it's a really interesting decision that the administration is going to have out there.
It is. And also, girls soccer had to move their tournament game to North on Monday, so they won't be playing there. What you said, Central has one home game the rest of the year, if I'm not mistaken.
And they're not
going to
have it there. They're not going to have it there, though.
Is it as easy as moving it to Grove? And granted, this might be a conversation for another week. But is that something that's as easy as just moving it to Grove City?
I don't think they've made any decisions. I mean, there could be something like, I'm not even, no one said, hey, we're going to move it to such and such place. But there's been a lot of games at the Fortress Obit, so that could be an option if they're looking for a place like that. Reedy is not playing that week at Fortress Obit, so as far as I know, that game, that stadium's open that night. But
neutral site halfway between Pickerington and Grove City as well.
But no one has said, hey, we're talking about moving it there. That's just me talking. So.
Yeah, but we do know that it's probably not going to be at Central.
No,
in week
it's not
10,
going to be
I guess it would be.
And that would mean, and also Central is probably going to have a good chance to have a home game in the playoffs.
So what do you do there?
And I don't know what they're going to do then.
Absolutely, and hey, but those are issues that they will like to encounter
in
a couple weeks here. In the OCC Cardinal, Hilliard Bradley is at 6-1 and 4-0. They take on a Jerome team that's kind of getting back into shape here.
Yeah.
They beat Thomas 33-0. Then they knocked off Delaware 35-21 last week. So I imagine Jerome's feeling good about itself, and this is a Bradley team that's coming in, won 3 games in a row by over 30 points.
Jerome's, maybe it's starting to hit their stride. They have this quarterback they have is only in his second game. Or he only started the last 2 games, I believe.
Yeah.
Quarterback,
Ryan Miller.
Ryan Miller. And they're playing with a little bit of confidence. They had a lot of close games. They're not really a typical 3-4 team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good.
Not at all. They've played, I believe, their only real blowout loss was against Coffman. And the other games they had were all really close losses. So and they're in that region too, where if they're not able to win and they can somehow go 5-5, they're going to have a good chance to make the playoffs. But this would really help.
Just like another team we're going to talk about in a minute, Gahanna. It's in Region 2. Upper Arlington is at 3-4, I believe, and they've still got a shot. They're in Region 2. That's just kind of the way of the land up there. The lay of the land, whatever you want to say.
Gahanna's looking like they're in real good shape here.
Yeah, and we'll be mentioning them momentarily. I do want to clarify something in case I sounded confusing a minute ago. Bradley has won its last 3 games by 31.3 points, the average. I don't think they've won all of them by over 30, maybe not.
Right.
But I just want to make sure that I was clear on that. You mentioned Gahanna. They head down to Lancaster. Lancaster, as we mentioned, knocked off Pickerington Central. This matchup, I mean, it's always an interesting one, it seems like. But yeah, I think it's even more fascinating given what happened last week.
With Gahanna, I mean, Gahanna's proven that their defense has really taken a big step forward since that New Albany game. And I mean, that, you know, in all reality, the New Albany game, they had some things go wrong at the beginning of the game. They fumbled the opening play, if I remember correctly. And I believe there's also a pick 6 in that game. So that game was, and then it, you know, heading into overtime, both teams got a score. So it was 41-40, but the game was actually a lot lower scoring than that. And then since then, Gahanna played what I thought was a really good game against Pickerington Central to hold that game at 27-13. I thought that was a pretty encouraging result for them. And then to go out and beat Romesburg and only hold them to 7 points. I mean, this is the kind of matchup where they're going to have a different kind of test with Lancaster's wing T, but you know, Lancaster has shown that they can do a lot of different things this year. Tyler Monk's thrown it.
Yeah, that was for music to say how excited they are about the Golden Gales passing game this year. As far as just playoff points, this point's probably a little more important for Lancaster. They're at 11th in their region. And then you've got a group here at Lancaster, and then it really falls off after them. From like
there's
8 to
11.
5 points.
I believe they're 11th right now.
Yes, they are 11th in Region 3. Gahanna's 3rd in Region 2, so we'll see what happens.
Gahanna's also, I mean, Gahanna's going to hit, if they play Grove City Week 9, and then Week 10, Gahanna versus Pickerington North. That's looking pretty huge.
Yes, it is. That very
depending
well
on
could be a play game.
Depending on what happens next couple of weeks.
We're running a little short on time, but we do want to mention a couple of other games as well. In the OCC Buckeye Orange, coming off a loss to Olentangy, takes on Westerville Central, and Olentangy and Liberty are both 2-0 in the league, and they take on each other tomorrow night. That one's always a good one. Olentangy against Olentangy Liberty. I think it's 5-5 all time.
I believe you're going to that game. Right?
I will be at that game, my second game of the weekend. You've had a ton of these Thursday games. I get one tonight with Canal and Franklin Heights. That one's always a fun one, and the winner will have, I don't want to say a stranglehold, but they're sure going to be in first place in the OCC Buckeye.
Liberty and Olentangy both seem to be playing maybe their best football right now.
Yeah, and if Olentangy keeps winning, I think they're 12th in Region 8. But they're going to, if they keep winning, they're going to keep getting a lot of Division I points.
Right.
That's going to help them really climb up the standings in a hurry there. I said it last week, and I'll say it again. Every week we talk about an important matchup in the City League South Division, and this one sure is. Walnut Ridge and South are both 6-1 overall, 3-1 in the league. They're both 15th in their respective regions right now. Both of them haven't played a lot of teams that are over 500. Boy, is that going to change in a hurry, though.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that's interesting about this, last year, their game didn't even get played because there was some kind of, I can't remember the exact details, but there was an incident at one of the schools earlier in the day.
Yeah, I want to say it was at South, I believe.
So the administrator's like, no, we're just not even playing football tonight. So
yeah, so they have 9 games.
You know, it's kind of it's just kind of interesting background, I guess. I mean,
it is. It did put a damper on it.
Yeah, I mean, these teams all know each other. South has been a really good story. 6-1. This is one of their best starts. Probably, I can't even remember the last time they had this good of a start.
No, nor can I.
So, and Walnut Ridge just has tons of athletes, and you know, I guess let's see how South can contain them. That's kind of the big question here.
Walnut Ridge is entering the gauntlet of its schedule. After this, they have South tomorrow night, and then Marion, Franklin, and Independence after this. Those teams are combined 15-6 at this point. So
it looks like they've got to win out. If they could, I think they'll still have a chance. But yeah, they're in Region 7.
Yes, with
so
Canal
deep.
Winchester is the other local team that's in there, one of the others.
So deep.
Yeah.
Region 7 is so deep. I mean, Northland is 12th, and I mean, I got to tell you, I think Northland looks like a playoff team that could get in and win a game or two.
And we'll see what happens.
But they might need help.
3 regular season games to go for these teams. A few others definitely that we do want to mention tomorrow night. We mentioned Upper Arlington earlier. They take on Marysville. That's a battle in Region 2. UA is on the outside looking in. Marysville is a tenuous 8th. They're
Good
barely
story.
an 8th.
4-3 this year. Marysville.
They played Coffman very close a couple weeks ago. As well, any of these other games stand out to you that you want to make sure we mention?
Well, the Battle of Westerville, I mean, Westerville South, one of the battles of Westerville South and Westerville North. Those are always good games. they're always interesting to see what happens in that result.
Yeah.
And then Reedy is playing at London.
Yeah, 7-0 London.
Now, last year, Reedy was able to beat London, and that was kind of one of the big reasons they were able to get into playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I think London might be a little better than they were last year.
It sure seems
So
like it from everything
it's going to
I've
be quite a challenge, but who knows?
Other game in the CCL tomorrow night, St. Charles is at Waterson, and in the OCC Capital, an important one, New Albany, fighting for its playoff lives at this point. They're about 15th in Region 7, that we mentioned, so I guess they'd be 14th because Walnut Ridge is 15th. They take on Big Walnut, who was the only team to knock them off in the league last year. I will be at Franklin Heights and Canal Winchester tonight. I'll have updates on my Twitter at ThisWeek. You are where tomorrow night?
Just Hartley at
You
the
were at
sales.
Hartley at the sales, okay.
Oh, yeah.
I am at Olentangy and Olentangy Liberty.
fun.
We'll have a ton covered on Twitter and on our website at thisweeksports.com. For Jarrod, Ulrey, I'm Dave Purpura. So long, everybody.